Hi everybody, thanks for watching. I know I say this at the beginning of every video I do in the studio, but it's just going to be a short one today, but I have been wrong before. I also do know that I look particularly red and blue as well today. I want to talk a little bit about my recent realisation that I suck at landscape photography and why that's okay. So I went to Pistyll Rhaeadr last week. You probably saw the vlogs I did on it. And I was very happy with the images I got, particularly this one behind me here of the waterfall from a distance. And on this second visit I also took two other images that I took multiple other images, but I showed two in the video. And as I was putting the video together, and after I put the video together, I realised that they absolutely sucked. They are awful. They don't capture in any way what it was like to be there or how nice the scene was to look at. And so I found myself asking, why did I take these images? Why did I walk away from that scene with these two images and think, yep, job done? Because I absolutely shouldn't have done. There was much better pictures to be had there. And I wanted to explore that a little bit today with you. And the first conclusion I came to about the two images that I don't like is that I was so overwhelmed by the scene that I basically forgot how to take a good picture. Now, I'm not an experienced landscape photographer. I'm not the kind of person yet who can see a scene and pick out composition in a wide vista and go, that's the picture. But I do know a good picture from bad. I know what I like, and I don't like those two pictures, and I shouldn't have liked them at the time I took them. But I was so overwhelmed by the scene. The scene itself to the eye was so beautiful, and I was so excited to be there. I did what an amateur photographer would do, which is point the camera, take the picture, and move on. And it wasn't until later I realised I didn't compose these at all, really. I didn't look for the best angle. I didn't ask myself questions like, what do I like about this picture? I simply set my camera up, got everything in that I needed to get in, and took the picture. Yeah, we did a couple of long exposures and so on, but they had problems of their own. And the thing was, looking back particularly at this picture, it was amazing to be there, but look at it. I mean, what is it? On the long exposure shot you can see the leaves blowing, which isn't particularly nice to look at. It looks amateurish. The entire left hand side of the frame is dominated by those quite boring leaves. I've got no light on them, they're not in focus, and you don't get the sense of what it was like to be there. Now, when I was there, what was beautiful about it was the water cascading down into this little pool, and you can't see that in the photo. This little, it was like a miniature waterfall of the main thing that you also see in the video. And what I realised is, I should have said to myself at the time, I need to be higher up. I need to be higher up, shooting downwards to really make the pool stand out, because it's almost horizontal in the composition that I chose. Now I know this. I know this now, I knew this then. I just didn't stop and ask myself the question. And I think that's, as I say, because I was so overwhelmed by the scene and I wanted to get the photos in the bag. And that's why I came up with the second part of the title for this video, and that's okay. Because I'm learning, and I won't make that mistake again. I'm not saying every picture I take is going to be great from now on, but I will give myself that moment of pause. I do it with other types of photography. I do it in the studio, I do it with music, but then again, I'm not often overwhelmed with what I'm looking at in those situations. And I just need to add that moment to pause in. And of course there are technical issues as well, like I just touched on. If you're going to do a long exposure, and you don't often do a long exposure in the studio or with music, but if you do a long exposure, yes, you're going to smooth out water, waterfalls, rivers, sea and so on, but you have to be aware of what else is in that scene that a long exposure might ruin it, like those leaves. I mean, it wouldn't have been a great shot anyway if they were in focus, but out of focus, they look even worse. And why my brain didn't kick in and say, this isn't going to look good, why I didn't look at the back of the camera and realise, I just don't know. But I'm happy that I didn't immediately download that photo to the computer, put it on Instagram, put it on Facebook and go, look. Immediately, as soon as I saw it, as soon as I put it into the video, I thought, this is not a good photo. And that's fine. I think that's the difference between an amateur photographer that's just taking snapshots and somebody who really wants to get good at photography and what they're doing. The ability to look at your own work and say, that didn't work. I need to learn from this. I'm not going to show these images again. And then there's the other image of the waterfall, which isn't as bad. It's not a terrible photo, but I don't think it puts the viewer in the scene. I don't think anybody's going to look at that and say, wow, what an amazing looking waterfall. You really captured it well. And what I did was I went back to the guidebook that I found the location from, because they took a similar photo and I liked it, but I don't like mine. And I realised what they'd done, and they did something that I wouldn't have necessarily thought to do, is that they shot from behind this small bridge. Now, when I looked at that photo initially, I thought, well, that's a strange decision. That bridge disrupts the landscape. That bridge is a man-made thing with this beautiful natural, it's one of the 7 wonders of Wales. And it was only afterwards, after I took my photo, that I realised why they chose to put that bridge in the frame. And it's because it gives it a sense of scale. You don't realise how tall that waterfall is unless there is something anchoring the shot to give you that sense of scale. And in their case, they chose the bridge. Potentially I could have gotten people in there. You see those shots on Instagram quite a lot where you just have one person in the frame potentially looking at the thing. And I didn't do that. And so I don't think that the majesty, if that's the right word, of the scene comes across. And I think that's why the photographer, Simon Kitchen, in the guidebook chose to put the bridge in, just to anchor everything, to bring it down and say, hey, the bridge is this big, therefore the waterfall's this big. And that's what makes his a much better shot. And so the reason my landscape photography sucks and why that's okay is because I'm coming back and asking myself these questions. Now, this series is about learning landscape photography. It's about me learning landscape photography, and hopefully some of you viewers out there learning with me as well. And that's the learning point I took away. And if you are learning landscape photography, then maybe it's something for you to think about as well. Think about how does this picture look to a third party, rather than just capturing the image for yourself and saying, I saw this. If you show the picture to another person, what are they going to think? Are they going to get the same sense that you got actually being there? Because that's what you're aiming for, right? And if they don't get that sense, and if you don't think they're going to get that sense, what can you do differently? And it is little things like putting something else in the scene, checking all 4 corners of the composition. I mean, right now I know I've got a mic growing out of my head, but you know, this is just a vlog. And that's why it's okay to suck at the beginning, because you learn from your mistakes. And that's it really. I haven't got an awful lot more else to say. It's just a short video today to acknowledge the fact I screwed up with at least 2 of those pictures, but I've learned from it. And what's interesting to me, because I'll watch this video back in a few months' time, what's interesting is whether or not I learn. Will I make the same mistakes again? I hope not. I probably will at some point, because we all do. I'm sure the very best photographers do take awful pictures from time to time as well. But I hopefully won't make that mistake as often, and over the next few weeks hopefully won't make it at all. And if that happens, then I'm a slightly better photographer than I was before, and that's all we're going for. So they're my thoughts on why it's okay to suck and why that's okay. If this video has been useful, please like, please subscribe. I will be back out again in the field shooting somewhere next week, and I'll see you then. Bye for now.